Hey, what's good, social media fans? We got all of my class here, y'all. Can y'all make some noise? Can y'all make some noise? Because we got Roshan in the building from Pure Justice. He came in here to give a wonderful presentation to our students today and signed autographed copies of their books, y'all. All right, we'll see you later. Stay tuned.
At a point when I was young, I actually got sucked into the criminal injustice system when I was 17, and this is why I asked you, what do you want to be when you get older? So I got sucked into the criminal injustice system when I was 17, behind a false accusation with inadequate counsel and no support system. I could have had a support system, but I didn't think I needed nobody. I thought as long as I told the truth and the whole truth and nothing but the truth in the court of law, everything would be all right. And ultimately, what I thought wasn't how things worked. I was naive, I was young, I was vulnerable, and I found out at an early age that in the criminal justice system, the only thing that matters is if you can afford to pay for your innocence, even while innocent, or if you can pretty much pay for the best story. I didn't even see no need to actually even invest in a lawyer at the age of 17 because I thought, again, as long as you told the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, everything would be all right. And it's like, what do I need to pay money for an attorney? The attorney I had was not a court appointed. He was a friend of somebody's that was helping me out while I was a kid with this case because they knew how important it was for me to have representation, but they only paid $1,000. So ultimately, as a kid, I signed a plea deal to avoid 15 years in prison, not because I was guilty of a crime, but because I felt as a kid that if I didn't sign that plea deal according to my lawyer, I would get 15 years in prison. And I couldn't see myself doing 24 hours in jail, let alone my whole life again in prison. So I signed a plea deal, thinking that this was my signature on a piece of paper for freedom. And I found myself into what it felt like at the time, a revolving door, an unending revolving door of the criminal justice system. Every time I breathe wrong, move too fast, I would get in trouble. Like my probation officer, she used to tell me, I know you're doing something. I don't know what you're doing, but I'm gonna catch you. And I used to be sitting up here thinking to myself like, what is this woman talking about? And I had no idea what she was talking about, but she was certainly fishing. Life was tough. My experiences through life put me in a position to where when I got older, I continuously kept losing houses, apartments. I couldn't keep employment. I found myself having to get creative in order to keep a roof over my head by lying on applications because nobody would actually give me a place to stay because of a criminal record. I found myself having to lie on employment applications because nobody would give me a job because of a situation that people didn't understand from what happened to me when I was 17. Again, not because I was guilty, but yet because I had a record and nobody would give me the opportunity to earn money to keep a roof over my head. So I had to lie on applications, employment, had to lie on applications for housing. I had to do what I had to do in order to stay afloat. And yet, some of the things that we do, because we're blackballed, may be against the law. you know, it's like that never-ending cycle. But obviously I got through it. I'm standing here in front of y'all today, and it was a lot. So
let me just interrupt just real quick,
Uh-huh.
and just kind of share how you and I came to know each other, and the whole purpose of our class, right? So this class is all about staying on course, right? So it's a college success class. These wonderful students that are here are freshmen in college, first time in college students. And so this class is setting them up for success. And so a lot of it has to do with making wise choices, things like that. So I shared a little bit of your story. I couldn't give it all away.
yeah,
And I would love for you to share the details of how it led to this and how it's impacted your life. And the thing that I love most about your life, and we can kind of go back and forth with questions and things of that nature, but that you never let anything kind of keep you down, even though you had this this flag on you, you never let it keep you down. You were always resilient, and how you came through UHD, all that good stuff. We definitely want to chime in on that, how you, what gave you that motivation and things like that. But let's start off with your story. Let's talk about what actually happened. And these are all adults. So I gave them the disclaimer, that everything is not going to be roses and rainbows. It is some real life stuff. And that's what I really want you to share with them, is the reality of life. And y'all know I can talk, but the reality of life. And I love that you asked them the question, what do you want to be when you grow up? Because I'm pretty sure that somebody asked you that question, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I'm pretty sure that it wasn't what happened to you in life. And so life is going to happen, and I really want them to just to understand the realities of it, and that whatever life throws at you, you can be resilient and get through it. So share your story.
Okay, so, and before, I realized who I was, I thought I used to want to be a police officer.
I did too.
I would never in life be a law enforcement officer. No offense. Because we all do things, for particular reasons, but I'm gonna get to that too. But let's see, who's the youngest person in this class? Can I ask that question? Yeah.
She's still 17.
17.
I'm 20. No.
Okay.
She's 19.
So, let me ask, if you was to guess, when I say I was sucked into the system, I want to see, what do you think it was for?
You?
Yeah, me.
Oh. I honestly can't say for what reason.
I just have something to say.
Go ahead.
I just it's not being I don't know, it's when I see y'all, it's we're all the same people.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter about the skin color, And that's what I think, because it's just unfair that people have to pass through that, but they're humans. We're the exact same people,
You're right.
Yeah.
So, let me cut to the chase. The reason I was sucked into the system when I was 17 years old, I left my mom's house in middle school. I thought that, again, I knew a lot more about life than what I did. I was able to take care of myself financially. Yes, I lived pretty fast, but when I was 17 in high school, again, living my life, doing what I want to do, when I want to do, how I want to do it. I don't have any parents to tell me, yo, be in before the lights go down, don't do this, don't do that, or give me game on certain things. The game that I was getting was from the streets. I had a young female that was 1 year and 4 months younger than me when I was 17, snuck away from her home when her mother told her she could only go in the front yard. I have no idea that this girl snuck away from her home. I went and picked her up. She came to my house. We did what we wanted to do, which was all consensual and mutual, yet we did not have sex because I couldn't get an erection. We chilled, we hung out, yet she still had consensual sex with somebody else in the house, which was one of my older homies. He was about 19 by the time she went home. She told us not to drop her off at her house, to drop her off at the corner. When we dropped her off at the corner, she went in a whole nother direction of her home. So I have no idea where she went or what took place in between the time we dropped her off on the corner to the time she got home. And next thing I know, the next day, my homeboy told me law enforcement was looking for me for kidnapping. I thought he was playing. Cause I know ain't nobody kidnapped anybody. A couple weeks later, cause I was a freestyle, folk style, Greco, All-American State Champion wrestler. My assistant wrestling coach was law enforcement, police, and he asked me what have I got myself into, and he told me what happened, but yet the charge changed from kidnapping to rape. And I'm like, okay. So now, when I was talking to my homeboy, when he was telling me law enforcement was looking for me for kidnapping, I knew it was serious. I thought he was playing when he was telling me that, cause I'm like, he just joking around, but talked to my assistant wrestling coach. He told me to turn myself in. I told him exactly what happened. I told him how we picked her up. I told him how I caught her, asked her could she get out. She told me yeah, gave me the address to pick her up. How she told me before we got to the house, she called my phone and said, don't come to my house, meet me at the corner. Got in a vehicle. I told him about how we touched each other, how we attempted to have sexual intercourse, how I couldn't get an erection. And I told him how she consensually had sex with one of the older homies, which he also knew him as well, because he was also a wrestler. We was all wrestlers. And he told me to write a written statement and turn myself in and tell him exactly what I told him when I was, from what happened that night, and I did. I wrote a 16-page statement before I turned myself in. That same exact night, I actually called the female to see what was happening. And when I called her, the music was playing. It was like she was having a party at her house. She answered the phone with so much enthusiasm, but when she heard my voice, she wouldn't speak. So I hung up, grabbed another cell phone, called her, music still in the background. She answered the phone again with so much enthusiasm, like, hello? After she heard my voice, wouldn't speak. Called her from another phone, again, same thing, answered the phone with so much enthusiasm, but when she heard my voice, she wouldn't speak. So I turned myself in the morning, gave my 16-page statement to law enforcement. They disregarded it as an angry parent, didn't arrest me, kept my statement, gave me a court date. In my mind, I'm laughing, like there's nothing nobody can do to me. I go to court, they give me another court date. I bump into the young lady in the mall, and I see her, and when I bump into her, the first thing she do is break down crying. She tell me it's not me, it's my mama, I don't know what to do, she won't listen to me, so on and so forth, and I'm like, just tell her the truth. She said I can't, she won't listen, I don't know what to do. That was the last time I talked to her. Still, to my young naive mind, there's nothing nobody can do to me. One, nobody was kidnapped, nobody was raped, nobody did anything to anybody that they did not want them to do. Everything that happened that night was from something she wanted. I was telling the truth. I get to my sentence date, which I didn't even know was gonna be my sentence date at the time. And I get pulled out in the hallway by my lawyer at the age of 17 when I was a 17-year-old boy, and he said, this is it. Nobody care about your story. Nobody care about what happened that night. Nobody care about what didn't happen that night. The only thing anybody care about is guilty or innocent. And if you say innocent, you will get 15 years in prison. He told me I will, not a possibility. He said, if you say innocent, you will get 15 years in prison. That's when I pretty much died internally. I felt like I had a gun up to my head when there was no gun, telling me that if I didn't conform to the truth that they wanted me to conform to, I was gonna go to prison for my whole life again. He said if I signed those papers, I'd walk out of here as a free man. I was only gonna get probation and 6 months ankle monitor. So Again, in my young naive mind, I signed these papers thinking, you know, anything beats going to prison 15 years. I signed these papers. After I signed these papers and the judge break down my sentence, he said everything that my lawyer told me, except he added one element. He said I would have to go on the sex offender registry. I had no idea what a registration was. Never even heard of it. And the judge asked my lawyer, he said, did you tell him about the registry? My lawyer said no. My lawyer bent down, he said, for the next 10 years, you're gonna have to tell law enforcement where you live. This was 20 years ago. Yeah. It's been a battle and a fight just being released from the system in general. You know, and it's why I came in and I asked you all, what do you want to do? And why? You know, like, what is your purpose? Because we can continuously keep following the cycles and keep running the systems as is. But one of the best ways to defeat corruption, we gotta drive our passion. We gotta do what we love to do. We can't allow society and people to push us in a direction to do certain things because this is what they did. You know, we can't, you know, try to please everybody and do certain things for the financial gain and the financial status, you know, or the position. We have to choose what we're gonna do in life because we wanna actually change the system that we live in. We can't forget that racism, and I know it shouldn't matter what color we are, and I know we ain't in the 1800s, but this is still America, and racism is embedded in every single institution that we interact with every single day. The educational system, law enforcement, the judicial system. Everything that we do got a base. And we can operate whatever system we work in as is for the security of a paycheck because we don't want to lose our position and status, elected seat. Or we can do things because we want to make a change and we want to build something for those coming behind us because life ain't even about us. It's what we can do for those coming behind us, like our kids. I ask y'all what y'all want to do because y'all are next. You all are the next leaders of Harris County. You all are the next leaders of Texas and probably the United States of America. And I know, you know, we all still learning about ourselves. I know exactly who I am right now today at this very moment. But I can't tell you who I'm gonna be tomorrow. I have no idea. All I know is I'm operating in purpose. And whatever I'm doing today, you know, it's gonna grow into something else tomorrow that will evolve into something I probably can't even imagine. So never stop growing. And whatever you do, just make sure it's a purpose. And that purpose should be to transform these systems that we live in every day that's embedded in white supremacy. Be the change. So.
Wow, thank you so much for sharing, guys. Give them a round of applause. So I want to kind of fast forward. You talked about being having to register as a sex offender and things of that nature, right? So I want you to talk about in detail how that has impacted your life. I know you kind of talked about it a little bit before, but how that's impacted your life and how the decisions that, and I'm saying this to say that the decisions that you make today will impact you for years to come. That one decision to take that plea deal has transformed his life in a way that I'm just speaking, he probably did not think that it would, right? And so I want you to share how that's impacted you and how it's kind of fueled the fire for what you do now.
Okay. So, and I want to make a comment to what you said before this, right? What you said, you know, how I never, you know, like, I never gave up. And, you know, how resilient I am. And I just want to add a little correction in there. I did give up. Like, I totally gave up. Like, I ain't want to do it. Like, at one point in my life, I told myself, I said, you know what? Like, what is the purpose? Like, I didn't understand how I got chosen, you know, to endure what I endured. And it was like, I felt like everybody turned their back on me, you know, because of something that people didn't understand. And I was running around, I was really wigging out. And I was really pushing people away from me that did love me because of all the other people who turned their back on me, you know, and I quit. I didn't even think I wanted to live no more. And then one day, you know, after a few years, I don't know what happened, but something clicked off into me, and it was like, yo, the thing or the things that people do to you that was meant to break you and tear you down could be the best thing that ever happened to you. And I found something that, you know, you can't get diamonds without pressure. So it's like, all right, I experienced what I experienced and I went through what I went through. Then I just started reflecting back at life. And it's like, you know, everything that we go through is for a reason and a purpose. You know, like no matter how nasty, whatever it was that you went through, you supposed to get something out of it. Like you supposed to really learn something out of the things that would transform your life. And they always say, I know everybody in here heard, it'll either make you or break you. And that's real. It can break you, but when it breaks you, honestly, it should only be temporary because we are humans and we got feelings. You know, we got emotions, you know, and life could be heavy. But you should always get something out of whatever you're going through. So, fast forwarding back to...
You can have a seat if you like.
Okay,
I'm chill.
I'm cool with standing up. That way everybody can see me. But, like, when I experienced what I experienced, I was still in high school. I was 17. You know, like the day that I actually got sentenced, it was the day before my 18th birthday. I was 17. And the judge told me the day before my 18th birthday, he said, which was a Friday, he said, you know what? When you sign this paper, we will not, they didn't start my probation date until that Monday. He let me stay out the entire weekend. I thought the judge, my naive 17-year-old boy, mental, I thought he was being nice. But when I look back at it, they started my probation from when I was 18. Then they called me an adult. and it's crooked. But I didn't even with me signing that plea deal, I still didn't understand what I did as a 17-year-old boy because I was still in high school. I still had 2 years of school left. I finished high school, you know, like probation. I go check in with this woman once a month. So what, she fishing. She trying to figure out how to catch me doing something, which I don't know what she looking for, but I'm like, whatever. When I got out of high school, I still didn't understand, you know, what I had got myself into. I never even had to report. In high school, when I got out of high school, I never had to report, never, not once, until I came to Texas. When I came to Houston, that's when my life changed. You know, like, I never lost a place. I never had a problem, you know, like, trying to figure out how to find a job until I came here. You know, it was about 2 years, maybe my second year here in Houston, Texas. It's like 22. And I was working at McDonald's, y'all. One of the jobs that give you the probably almost the least pay that you can get. I mean, McDonald's, whatever minimum wage was what I was making. You know, maybe a little bit more than minimum wage, but somebody faxed a picture of me at McDonald's in the whole mall telling them about my charge from when I was 17, and they don't even understand how I got it. See, and I'm gonna tell you the problem that I have is that what people don't get is what I said in the beginning of my speech, that racism is embedded in everything that we, like every system that we interact with. Like they know about, you know, like the history that we look at, and you know, people may have seen roots and we hear the stories, but then they think like, oh, it's 2022, racism is over, and yet it's not. You know, like what people don't get is that racism still exists, it just look different. What people don't get is that laws are predatory, and depending on the shade of your color, and I know, and I wish he was here, the shade of your color, the family you was born into, the financial status you sit in, you know, or like just who you are as an individual will put you in a position to where the laws will work different for you than they would for somebody else. And that just because somebody signed a plea deal doesn't make them guilty of a crime. What it means is, it can mean a lot of things. I was guilty. It could mean I'm not guilty, but yet I can't afford to pay for my innocence, and I know that if I do not sign this deal, then ain't no telling what will happen to me. I might get 2 years, or 5 years, or 20 years, or life, when they offering me a quarter of the sentence. What people don't get is, from the first time that you actually had that first encounter with the criminal justice system, that it's hard to get out. And they want to look at you and say, well, he did that, and she did that, and then look at that. What people don't understand is, when people take a case all the way to trial because they know that they innocent, they actually have the guts to take something all the way to trial, knowing that they can't pay for adequate counsel. Sometimes they lose, even though they was innocent. And they say, but he or she was convicted by a judge or jury. Like the system is perfect and not racist. Like the system doesn't have a double-edged sword. But the way it impacted me, it put me in a position to where my creativity soared. You know, like I've always been creative. I always knew how to make money. I always knew how to survive. But they put me in a position, like I was telling y'all earlier, how I had to lie on applications. You know, I had to, you know, figure out how to keep a roof and keep employment. Yet, you know, I also had to figure out how to pull in extra money, which again, could be against the law. But it's like, what do you expect people to do when you take all their resources from them? You just gotta know how to, you know, when you get to a position sometime in life, if you can make it, how to shift from one way of living to another. But you gotta have support, no matter what you do. Because without a support system, I tell you, I wouldn't be here in front of you, regardless of what I'm doing.
I want to ask you a question. How do you find the will to keep going? And you were obviously dealt a bad hand, right? Mm-hmm. And it's like, and I would personally feel like this is not fair. Like I didn't do anything, and now I'm having to reshift my entire life. How do you still find the will to keep going and keep moving?
So that hand was bad, but that hand might have been bad in a good way. So I'm gonna go back to pure justice, right? Even though I'm the co-founder of this organization and I've been through the system, the way I've been through the system, I do not organize people to advocate around the issues that I have. So everything that we do inside the org, it comes from community need. We don't do anything without community. We pull community together every single month and we talk about things that people see in the community, you know, things that impact them in certain ways, and then we come up with ways that we can combat whatever is impacting our community, the ways that they are being impacted. Our organization is diverse. I'm talking about from educators, lawyers, judges, politicians, people with prison numbers, people that's still on parole, probation, and you know, some people is locked up right now. Like, we are very diverse. But what keeps me going is seeing the need of everybody else, just continuously watching what everybody is going through. Like, I had my experiences, you know, so I actually understand a whole lot of problems that people have. You know, so like when they come and they talk to me, like we can have real conversations, like people enjoy talking to me and telling me about the issues that they have because I actually get it. And it's not all about me. So what keeps me going is that, one, people trust me to actually fight for them. People trust me to talk to me about their issues. And people trust that the things that they, like, some of the, I ain't gonna lie, some of the stuff that we go through, it's embarrassing. Like, what I'm talking to y'all about right now, ain't nobody about to sit up here and talk to y'all about what they done experienced and what they went through, especially when what they went through had anything that's hanging behind it that says sex. Ain't nobody talking to you about that. It's embarrassing. That book that I wrote, Stolen Identity, that is my life. You get the good, the bad with the embarrassing, and that book broke me down. In so many different ways, I had to continuously keep putting the book down because it was hard for me to actually talk about my life as is. And I didn't transform my life in the book as how I wanted my life to be. You know, I gave it to people like I was vulnerable. And my vulnerabilities put me, it's like I'm a magnet now. It's like, I don't know, people just love to be around me. You know, that been through some stuff. They love to get involved, you know, in changing the system, you know, and it's really just my love for people, you know, like my love for, you know, change. Like I know that it's a lot of things that could be done, but the only way things can get done that need to happen, people have to have the courage to actually make it happen. And that's what keeps me going.
I want to open it up to the students to ask questions. I know that I asked you guys to take some notes, but does anybody have any questions? This is the time you can ask Mr. Roshan any questions that you have.
So while you were going through the justice system, basically what you're saying is it was unfair to a certain, well, not to a certain extent, but to like a really long extent for you, which I wouldn't doubt, because I mean, no matter how well we say the system is, everything is in some way corrupt because of so many people that are higher ups and that want to keep that position. The only reason they're keeping that position is due to the family they come from, the amount of wealth they come from, and so they really don't want to, what I see in our society is they don't want to let others in, because if they do, then we'll eventually start changing it and they can at least better than what they are doing. And so I wanna ask you, for you, when you were going through that justice, why do you think even if you were innocent, I don't know, did they ever go back to the case and like backtrack like everything that really happened? Do you know if they talked to people, witnesses?
No, but they should have, right? Who remember what my charge was?
Rape.
Touching a minor.
And then rape.
Touching a minor.
Oh.
We a year and 4 months apart. My charge is touching a minor. I was 17. We're a year and 4 months apart. Now the Michigan law, right. You ain't say nothing, but I read your mind. Now the Michigan law states that you cannot legally have sex unless you are 18 years of age. I was 17. It says anybody between the ages of 13 and 16 is a minor. So anybody between the ages of 13 and 16 is a minor, yet you cannot have sexual intercourse unless you are 18, or you will have to have a parent or legal guardian's consent. Where does it leave a 17-year-old? You can't have sex unless you 18. But you consider the minor between 13 and 16. I'm 17, we're a year and 4 months apart, and I'm charged with touching a minor. Can any of you college students make it make sense? And again, we mutually touched each other. We attempted to have sex. I couldn't get an erection. We did not do anything that was unwanted. Everything that happened she wanted, and what I couldn't give her, she still got from one of the older homies. And ironically, guess what his name was? Anybody remember what my name is? His name is Roshan. He's 2 years older than me.
Wow.
But even with that, it was what she wanted. And the whole problem was her mama was mad because she looked outside and couldn't find her daughter. And that's where the issue started. Any more questions?
I have a question. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Okay.
Why did she tell her mom? Because her mom had to find out by her daughter. So why didn't she tell her mom that it was your friend that did it and not you?
I have no idea what was said in the house or what happened. But what I do know is the only person that called that girl was me. I called her. My number was on that caller ID. I went and picked her up. When it came to the courtroom, she couldn't speak. She couldn't say not a word because she was a minor. The only person that could do any speaking was the person who wasn't there, which was the parent.
Wrong place at the wrong time.
Or, maybe it was one of those necessary evils that need to happen, because if we don't go through something, sometimes we won't do nothing. Sometimes if we don't go through something, we won't understand, what barriers need to be broke. Sometimes if we don't go through something, when certain things take place in other people's lives, we may be so detached that we just don't get it. And I truly feel like, as an adult, that I was chosen. I feel like I had to go through what I went through in order to pull something great out of a poor situation that could have been terrible for me. I really believe that Pure Justice, the organization, everybody standing with me and behind me, is going to do some great things for people who have no idea that we're working for them.
Steve, anybody else have any questions?
I know the same question, but it blows my mind how the whole system works, because when something doesn't happen, when the suspect isn't guilty, they're the ones who get in trouble. But when there's someone out there really doing something, they don't do nothing about it. That's what blows my mind.
Yeah. I don't know how to comment to that.
Yeah, it's just
And
like my mom right now sitting in jail for nothing. Just sitting in the Missouri County jail, no charge, nothing. Just fucking bugs me,
bugs me
Excuse my
too.
lady.
That's all right.